John Carpenter's The Fog.
This is KAB, Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100 years old today, and keep a watch out for that fog bank heading in from the east.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
How do?
This week, we'll be discussing the horror classic, The Fog, starring Adrienne Barbeau, Hal Holbrook, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, John Houseman. It's an all-star cast, for goodness sakes.
And I don't know if this is the prequel or the reunion from Creepshow. Which came first?
That's a question we're going to answer this episode. Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, how are you?
I have supposedly, we're just going to work on this costume for this party I'm going tonight. Our theme is from a Clive Barker book.
Oh, really? Which book?
The Thief of Always. I'm so bored with it. I got through half of it and I immediately tuned it out, even though it's a child's book. So I had to go read Wikipedia to find out what's happening. It's so boring. So our theme tonight is time. How long did I have to think about how do you dress for time?
How about the theme for tonight is it's Halloween almost? That's all the theme you need.
There's prizes. There's prizes, friend.
Oh,
so I finally came up with this. I'm just going to wear it. I had this elaborate idea. I'm going to sew. Our fabric store that was right by my house went out of business. So when things dropped to 90% off, I started buying bolts of like red and black tulle that I was going to use. And I took a sewing lesson. So I was going to make this elaborate gown. And now I'm going to be wearing these jeans and this black sweatshirt. And so I'm just going to be like one half of my face will be, old and gnarly. So natural. And the other half, I'm just going to glam up and call that time the Ravages.
And what prize are you anticipating
being around
winning?
Children.
That'll do it either.
Who the hell knows? But that way, I'll be comfortable because it's freezing cold right now, and so there you have it. And I'm bringing salmignacchi, in case you don't know. That is salted licorice liqueur. I have a friend who has a brother in.
That sounds nightmarish.
If you like sambuca, you're gonna double down for this. I have a friend whose brother lives in Finland, so I made her bring me back a big plastic jug of it.
Isn't Jägermeister kind of a licorice liqueur?
I think it has anise, but it's disgusting. It's more like
totally
Ferrante.
It's like you do shots of it back in like your freshman year of college or something. That's kind of a dare, essentially.
Well, there was a rumor if your last drink was a Jaeger, then you wouldn't have a hangover. But it tastes like shit and it costs money. Back in my day, when I was in college, I could get a pitcher of Schlitz for $3.
The Malt Liquor Kings.
The Malt Liquor Kings. At one point, my favorite bar, that was the only thing they had on draft. You could buy bottles of beer, but who can refuse $3 Schlitz? I knew it was getting uppity when I went back for like a reunion and I asked for a pitcher of beer and they said, what kind? I was like, what?
You mean you have more than one selection?
A fine selection of the greatest malt liquors ever.
Can I smell the bottle cap? Yeah.
Sadly, it's been finally closed down again, and this time permanently, because they just can't stop selling drugs out of the back. So, R.I.P. Toby and Jax. R.I.P.
Everything's closing down. The fabric store, the drug dealer,
half the bars in my little college town have now been permanently closed, and one is now something totally different just because they can't stop selling them drugs.
Sweet Jesus. I briefly attended our middle school Halloween party. No drugs there, as far as I know. But
this is a reunion, or when you were actually in middle school?
No, yeah, as you know, I hope
Oh,
I
you're a
teach
middle
middle
school
school.
teacher. I thought this
I'm a
was
middle
some
school
Nellie
teacher.
Kaufman tales of the
No, I
desert.
was not bringing back. Yes, I'm reminiscing of 35 years gone by. Um, and they played they played a kind of a selection of kind of 80-ish Halloween movie or Halloween songs, right?
Right,
You know, you got Thriller and things like that. But there aren't
right.
that many Halloweeny songs. So they dipped into like Steve Miller Band's Abracadabra, and I was reminded by how horrible this song is. This song is the
Abracadabra, I wanna reach out and grab you.
I mean, that lyric alone, they should kick him out of the Hall of Fame, as far as
That
I'm
was their
concerned.
big attempt at getting poppy instead of fly like an eagle. But to tell you the truth, never been a fan.
I'm always impressed when somebody starts a band and says, I'm naming it after myself. Want to be my bass player? Want to be my drummer? Yes, it's the Kevin Doherty Band. What do you think? Are we already? I mean, it's one thing if you're like, I don't know, Robert Plant, who was like a big, had a lot of success with Led Zeppelin, and then you form another band, and everybody's
Right.
like, okay. But if you're just kind of unknown Joe and you're like, I'm still naming the band after me. What do you think? I have the van, I
It's
have the
my
amps.
band. I have the van, and my parents let us practice in the garage. It's my band.
Right.
And
Anywho,
it's not always the lead singer.
it's
Well,
not.
I mean, it makes more sense than like Sugar Ray. Who's Sugar Ray? Hey, Sugar Ray, what's up? That's not my name.
Jethro Tull. There's
Where's Jethro?
as I said before,
Jethro Tull, the land of the rock flute, the band with the rock flute.
you can't go wrong
Whee!
with the rock flute. The Jay Giles Band. Jay Giles was not the lead singer.
I know that's very confusing.
That's very confusing. So anyway, that's neither here nor. People have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, they
Anyway,
should. It's an
Dave
education.
Matthews named the band after himself. Was he famous before he was part of the Dave Matthews Band? Even that's a 30-year-old reference. Sweet Jesus, here we go.
And I can tell you, I don't know any Dave Matthews songs. I know no Taylor Swift songs either. So does that help?
I do know some
help me
Taylor
or
Swift
hurt me?
songs.
Well, I assume living in a house with nothing but women, the
Pretty
estrogen
much.
is flowing freely there.
It is. It is. The thing about it, it's like I do know that Dave Matthews. I feel like I may know one song.
What's the name?
Crash, wasn't that a Dave Matthews song?
I don't know, but I did see the movie Crash.
Which one?
The
Boom,
one where it's the sexual one.
That's David Cronenberg's Crash,
Yes!
not the Academy Award winner Crash.
No.
That people hate, but I secretly love. So there you go.
Which, the sexual one?
I do not appreciate the sexual one.
I just listened to a podcast on that one.
No,
I was like, shit, I remember ripping that at the Blockbuster. With the pan and scan, and to cut out all the naughty bits.
All the naughty bits. Anyway.
Holly Hunter diddling after a car crash.
It was James Spader, right?
Yeah.
It was an all-star cast, yes. Anywho, we're not discussing Crash at the moment.
We're not discussing sexual death cults today.
We are
but
not.
We could at another time.
We're not taking it off the table. Aaron, give us your 30-second synopsis of The Fog.
A town is cursed because they tricked a boatload of lepers to crash so they could rob them and to start their town. But instead, they used the money to make a giant cross, so then it's very confusing why they needed the money. Anyway, Revenge from the Dead. And I always do love a good ghost ship story.
Right.
You know, you got it's kind of piratical, but they were not pirates. I like that idea. In fact, there is a movie called Ghost Ship with Julianne Margulies that I remember not being too bad. We might have to put that on the list.
Add it to the list. What else are we gonna do?
So revenge. Yeah, the end.
I think this is a movie perhaps best watched if you're kind of like at a beachy, like on vacation at the beach. You know what I mean? It's kind of dark and cold outside. You pop this in, and it gives you that right kind of flavor, if you will.
I feel like this is a movie that could be done correctly, but I think you need to remove the whole leper thing. Like they caused Father Damien's ship in Hawaii to crash on the rocks for
That's
greed,
exactly correct.
and
100%.
this was run by a priest. And then 5 generations later, his son is still a priest. I'm not sure that's how the
Yes.
Catholic Church works. They
I
send
wrote
you
that down.
they send you far, far away.
Yes. Okay. What was this your
And
first
how is it
viewing?
his grandson?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That makes absolutely no sense. Is this your first viewing of this movie?
Oh Lord, no!
You've
I
seen
barely
it
had to watch it. It was like Creepshow. I barely had to watch it. It's all in grade. I just needed a couple of flavor points. For some reason, I always forget it's a truckload of lepers.
Right. I feel like I did not see it. Obviously, I was too young to watch it in the theater or whatever, but I don't think I saw it in the 80s. I think I saw it in the early 90s because I felt like I had missed a lot of, like, this was one of those John Carpenter movies that I missed. Like, I saw Halloween, I saw The Thing, I saw Escape from New York, but The Fog somehow slipped through. So I remember seeing it for the first time in the 90s. And it's like people ask us, have you done The Fog? Have you done The Fog? And once again, it kind of slipped through. And I wonder if it's because, at least my impression is I'm kind of like, eh.
This is very made for TV vibe.
It has that vibe. No question.
It's
I don't want
really
to
not
spoil our reviews.
violent. They really don't see much. What do you mean you don't want to spoil it? We always give the ending.
No, spoil our reviews.
Oh.
I don't want to spoil our review. Yeah, the surprise ending. He was dead all along.
It was dead all along. It was all the dream of a madman.
It was an autistic child with a snow globe. Yes, that's all it was. No, watching it again in this, Halloween season. All this is probably gonna come out in Christmas. It was kind of fun to watch, I will say. But you're right. It's by no means like a classic of the genre. For
Right.
a lot of simple reasons.
It's the Love Boat of horror movies.
Right. Absolutely.
It's everyone who was doing their thing back during that time. It was, yeah.
Well, and why don't we jump right
like I said, the idea it's like Salem's Lot.
Right.
Still hasn't been done correctly. This could be done correctly.
Although they did a remake in like 2006, I believe, with Selma Blair and
still
Maggie
not
Grace.
Quite there. Still not quite there.
Not quite there. I just think that there's some plot elements that don't make a whole lot of sense.
100%. And after they finished it, they came to the same conclusion.
They did. John Carpenter basically says this was not one of his favorites.
He was high on cocaine or something. I don't know. Trouble ahead, trouble behind.
Did you recognize a John Carpenter cameo in this movie?
Oh shit! Was he one of the undead?
No. At the beginning of the movie, the drunken priest is hanging out in the church by himself while his helper is like closing the windows. Do you need anything else from me? The helper is John Carpenter.
And he wouldn't pay him. He's like,
can I get paid?
He cut his hours the next day.
Yes. On second thought, in punishment for you asking to be paid, now you're losing 3 hours, of which I won't pay you anyway. I mean, does it come out of the priest's pocket that he pays the guy to close the windows?
I guess whatever you don't send to Rome and doesn't go in your pocket is, for the maintenance. It doesn't look like there's a lot of maintenance going on there.
It doesn't appear so, does it? Yes, that was in John Carpenter's style. Now, this was 81, I believe, if I remember this correctly. He was still sporting that kind of Doobie Brothers long hair and the mustache look. That was his look through his life. So
it was a terrible look.
He was into it. He was married to Adrienne Barbeau at the time, too, by the way.
I did not know that they were ever married. I just have to say, men need supervision with their facial hair because we go through these cycles.
We do.
Where all of a sudden, like, men want to be like a fucking catfish, and you get this droopy thing. I understand you don't have a lot of options. I mean,
true.
I mean, women come up with ideas and things to do with their hair, but I guess men are limited by their imagination. The best they come up with is the catfish. And
No one
now,
calls it the catfish, by the way.
and now, these mother effers are still hanging on to the 90s where you have like a ZZ Top fucking beard. Oh my God, 90 Day Fiance, Christine just got married to a dude. I'd be like, I wouldn't date you with that crazy bullshit
No,
rabbit
I've
tail.
talked to Becky about this. The full on, like, long old beard, like Rip Van Winkle or somebody, where you're just like, that just seems disgusting. I mean, I've got facial
It
hair, obviously,
is. I mean,
but
you
the
got
idea,
it tight and clean.
you
You
got it.
wash your face, you wash it. But quite frankly, I think facial hair in men is kind of gross. My ex-husband, his mustache would grow long, so he'd bite the ends, so then the ends would get like split ends, and then I'm
Yes,
like just staring at you.
right,
Either you got to commit to keeping it tight and clean because that looks good. Otherwise, it looks like you just don't give a.
right. You don't want to look like crazy hobo, is what you don't want.
If you could braid it, it's too long. But quite
I agree.
frankly, no. I don't want any sectional hair. If you
Soul
want to do this
patch,
little
mutton
fucking
chops.
thing, but you need to be working it every time, every day. It needs to be.
I don't know about every day, but it shouldn't be like a long, old, crazy scraggle thing.
Speaking as a woman, there's a fine line. If it's too short, then it's like kissing someone with razor blades.
That is true.
And so it has to be just long enough that it's soft and not going to stab me, but not too long that your lunch is like nestled in like a bird.
Well, here's the thing. It's like there have been times I have clean shaven and Becky doesn't like it because the only way you can be clean shaven is if you do shave every day. You have to
Correct.
shave every, like, get every ounce of, of pokies, get them off there every day. And there's
Like
no
our
way I'm doing
father.
that.
Like our
Right.
father shaved every day. That's what
And
you're
many
supposed
people
to
do.
do.
Many men do. That was never going to be me, never. Like I do once a week, maybe twice a week if I was feeling jaunty.
Electrolysis. Can you get the laser?
Just spread Nair on your face every morning until it
My
turns to
ex-husband
jelly.
had a friend who had the laser, but it was a little too late because he was already getting a little salt with his pepper. So now so the laser took off all the black, but now he just has weird patches of gray that grows. So it
Oh, that's
kind of
perfect.
it didn't quite work
Didn't
out the
take.
way.
That's
Yeah.
lovely. Let's
Nice.
talk about this for another 20 minutes. So, okay, basically the plot of this thing is 100 years ago, in this frontiersy kind of beachy area
The frontier of Northern California.
there was a small community that lived there, and a wealthy leper and his gang of lepers wanted to move up the coast. They lived on an island like Molokai or something, some
Yes,
mythical island.
they're sailing from Molokai with Father Damien.
With Michael Damien from Young and the Restless. And they were like, hey, is it cool if we form our little leper colony just up the coast? And the townspeople were like, I'm not so sure about having some crazy old lepers, even though they're very nice people. Nothing wrong with them, but they're lepers. Let's be honest. So rather than just say no thanks, we're going to set a signal fire in a wrong place. And when the fog rolls in, the leper boat will come in and crash on the rocks, killing all the lepers. And then we can go, I don't know, diving for their gold because they're wealthy. We can go in there with, a diving bell. I mean, I don't know what they're planning. They're just going down.
First of all, why do they need to ask permission from these mofos? When I bought this house, I didn't go around my neighbor say, "It's okay, it's okay."
You're right.
I buy this house.
Legally, no permission was needed, but I think the kindly lepers were like, "Hey, we know we're lepers. We don't want any issues."
I don't want you walking down the trail and just seeing an old arm that I have sloughed off.
You don't want that,
and I don't want you to be concerned.
They're sensitive. They're sensitive to that. So they murder like the town elders, 6 elders, including the local priest, conspire to murder all the lepers and steal their gold. Later in the movie, it's revealed that the priest took the gold because he felt so racked with guilt, stole all the gold from his fellow conspirators, and molded it into a giant golden cross, which he hid in the walls of the church with his journal, where he described every minute detail of the crime.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. The other elders, we just killed all these people. They needed the money to set up the town,
right?
Which I don't know what that means if there's
Yes.
a town already there.
That's correct.
And everybody said, "Okay." No,
Yes.
They've already killed a boatload of people. Father so and so took a walk late at night. We don't know what happened to him. He would have.
Well, but they don't know that the priest stole the gold.
Well, where do they think all the gold went?
They don't know. They think they know somebody stole it, but they don't know who took it. So that's all there is.
Whatever. It's
so
cool.
Now the murder of the lepers was helped by some fog that happened to blow in that day, so that they couldn't see where they were going. Blah blah blah.
Correct.
So now 100 years later,
you forgot the part.
Oh, late on.
According to the legend,
yes.
When the fog, it never got foggy again in San Francisco after that. So, and then when the fog returns, so will Father Damien and his crew of lepers.
That's correct. So 100 years later, they're celebrating the centennial of the town. Now the fog's rolling back in.
And no one is surprised. How weird. It never gets foggy here. No one said that.
No, there's never a moment where
they're like,
said,
"What's that fluffiness coming in from the coast?
What is this? I'm
unfamiliar. That glows."
I'm unfamiliar. So the fog is back, and I guess the ghostly leper pirate people are now, whenever the fog rolls in, inside the fog are the ghosts of the lepers with like hooks and swords and shit. And
hay hooks. One dude had a hay hook. They had horses on there too?
They had horses.
Did they go to the feed store before they went into the town to buy like hay hooks?
Okay. That's correct. They need all that good stuff. So now they're on the rampage for the 6 conspirators. And the entire time I was watching this, I kept saying to myself, how about come back when those 6 people are still alive?
That's what I say. How about come back the next week? Right. I wait 100 years because Lord knows, no, in 100 years, your descendants never leave. So the town is like rabbits just multiplying, and no one ever leaves.
Including the priest, as you said. The priest has a great-grandson. So I don't know, it's like the Thornbirds? I mean, what's the situation here?
Clearly, I'm not sure how the priest has a great-grandson. Yeah.
Who's also a priest. So it's a family.
Also a priest. It's like a king. You hand it down.
You pass it, exactly. It's a family trade. Is how they do it.
This is a cult. This is a kill cult town.
But and the gooch about this movie is it seems like the ghostly lepers murder just whoever they come upon, and then later they're like, oh, by the way, those were the six conspirators' descendants. But
the rest of the people could have been just sitting on their decks, drinking hot cider, watching the zombies go by, killing everybody else because it's like, ain't my family.
Right. I mean, theoretically, that's what should have been allowed to occur, except for the fact that Adrienne Barbeau is being chased up on the lighthouse by a bunch of ghostly hook-wielding creatures. And clearly she wasn't a descendant of one of the people. So
that was a little ding-dong daddy-o. And she was given did you ever see that movie, Play Misty for Me? She was given some Play Misty for Me vibes, that whole thing. With her sex voice and our smooth jazz.
Smooth.
What's uptown of whatever.
It's the only radio station in town, and it's in the lighthouse. I kept thinking, because there's a scene where she's on the radio telling everybody, oh, avoid this street, the fog's rolling in. Go that way. Everybody head to the church, kind of thing. But when you see the lighthouse, it's literally at the bottom of the hill. On the edge. It's like, what angle are you using to see all of the town?
It's the Point Reyes Lighthouse, and it is easy to get to and a bitch to get back. There's 350 steps all the way down there, which you're like, la, 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 la. And then they have these pull-offs for when you go back up, because you're like, but she's like carrying groceries up and down.
Give me a funicular or something. I mean, don't make me walk those things.
We need more funiculars.
Absolutely. If I owned a mansion and it was on the top of a hill or at the bottom of a ravine, it's got to have a funicular. Absolutely. No
You don't
question.
want the servants carrying you on a thing on your
On a rickshaw?
shoulders up there.
Yes.
Not a rickshaw, no wheel at all. Force them to put your full weight on their shoulders and
That's
carry
what,
you up.
yes. I need 4 like manservants carrying me around from place to place. Is that too
How
much to
sexist
ask?
of you.
I like
Why no
how
women servants carrying your ass
a
around?
riding crop, absolutely.
Cringy
There,
as well.
the movie opens with crispy old John Houseman on the beach telling an old tale of, basically the exposition of the story, essentially.
At
To
midnight,
At
I'm gonna
midnight,
drop my child off at the
yes,
beach with some crazy old seafaring captain drunk, whatever, and
absolutely.
to fill him with horror. So when he comes to bed at 1 a.m, he's gonna go sleep like a baby. No, that baby's gonna be up till dawn crying.
There's no way this makes a lick of sense that the townspeople dropped off all of their preteens with Captain Ahab, the local town pedophile, for all I know,
This
and
could
said,
have been like a Pied Piper situation, and then he loaded them up on the boats.
it could be. And it's basically like, I'm going to take your kids out to the water at midnight. Is that cool? No other parental supervision necessary. I'll bring them back in tears. How's that sound? Yes, sounds
They'll
great.
never sleep in their own room again.
Or ever again anywhere, frankly. It's like, look, how about
I
tell the
hope it's a
tale
school
at
night.
6:30? 6:30 in the evening, get them home for, yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway, what you got?
Oh my God. Let me look at my notes here.
Take your time.
There's crazy Vivian Lee bebopping and snapping. You got super young Jamie Lee Curtis getting together
Super young.
with the old man from Halloween 3.
Tom
And they're making
Atkins.
it work. That's when it was fun to be a hitchhiker. That's how you get your dates.
Oh,
I'm
we
getting
have
out
to
of
talk about
shitty
this.
San Diego, and I'm
Yes.
on my way to, where's she going?
Vancouver.
Washington, selling her pictures that they can't show us because they're clearly so terrible.
We have to
Tom
talk about this.
Atkins with no mustache.
Sans mustache. He looks weird. Tom Atkins looks weird with no mustache. I'm sorry. It's like we may mock
It's
his
weird
crazy.
to see people without a mustache when they've always had it. I remember my ex-husband always had a mustache, and then he shaved it. And it was like, your lip is so big. It's like your lip is twice as long.
Right.
I kept
If only
saying,
you
like,
know.
I don't know who you are. It completely changes your face. And his mom was like offended because, of course, like, I got to tell it like it is. I'm like,
No one can read your lips or hear you, Aaron. So I'm saying, sweet Jesus. No, when I always tell the story, and it upsets my youngest because when she was young, Lucy, I shaved my face clean, and she came in, and she kind of recoiled, and then later said, "Dad, you look so plain."
Nosferatu.
You look like Nosferatu, is what she said. Absolutely. No, so Tom Atkins, I don't know what he is. He's just some dude driving a truck, and there is
Driving a
Jamie
truck
Lee.
and a seafarer.
Is he? Is he a seafarer as well?
Well,
I don't know.
he jumped out. He knows everyone's fishing schedules.
Oh,
He's
that's true.
on a boat going out to rescue the people from the little dinghy or
Yeah,
whatever.
no Coast Guard necessary. I got this.
No. He'll be mad if you call search and rescue. He's
That's
only
right.
been gone a couple extra days.
So he picks up hitchhiker Jamie Lee Curtis, who looks frighteningly young.
Yes.
This, frankly. And he's like drinking a beer. He's like, "Hey, I want a sip." And she's like, "Okay, sure." And she's
It's my
she's
breakfast
like,
beer. My breakfast Schlitz.
absolutely. And she goes, "You're the 13th person I've been hitchhiking with." He's like, "Oh, 13, that's unlucky." And she's like, "We'll see."
Can't be more else. Woo!
We'll see. Oh, Jamie Lee, what are you doing? Don't do it. Problem is, Tom Atkins, like when he was in movies that I was familiar with, maybe he was in stuff in the 50s for all I know, he always seemed way too old to be shacking up with these chicks. I mean, from Halloween 3, how do we show that scene from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, where he's in bed in the afterglow, and he turns to the girl and goes, "How old are you anyway?" And she says, "I'm older than I look." I mean, that's not a good answer.
That is not a
Basically.
good answer. I know I look 12, but I'm really 14. Does that make you feel better?
No, that's bad. That's
I
bad.
I imagine his character has one of those 70 bumper stickers that says like gas, grass, or ass. No one rides for free.
Absolutely.
And she's
If they
into
still
that.
sell those, I'll throw those. The one on the back of the Prius. Why not?
On the family van.
On the family van. Absolutely. On the minivan, the Honda Odyssey. Absolutely. No, but it goes back to his whenever he's in a John Carpenter movie, Tom Atkins, it's a rule. He has to hook up with somebody at least 35 years younger than him. At
It's
least.
in the rider.
It's in his contract. And there has to be at least one scene where he's drinking and driving. There has to be. I don't know if he's like, can I just ad lib this? What if I have a bud in my hand while I'm driving?
I just happen to have one in my pocket anyway.
Look, I'm drinking this one way or the other. So cameras on, cameras off, whatever you want to do.
You tell me.
Sweet Jesus.
I like to think that conversation happened. That would
Absolutely.
be fantastic.
But it is that thing where we're talking about where it's like he is like the investigator. I mean, is he the main character of this movie? I don't even know who is it Adrienne Barbeau is the main character? It's an ensemble
Yeah,
cast. Let's
it's an
say that.
ensemble. There you go. Because really, first of all, why Tom Atkins is even there with Jamie Lee Curtis really has nothing to do with them.
Right. Right.
It's Hal Holbrook. It's Adrienne Barbeau.
Right. Well, what's interesting is if you watch this movie, you realize Adrienne Barbeau is never on set with another actor ever. No, wait, that's not true. One time with her son.
Yes.
One time with her son in bed. And by the way, can I say, this is the Adrienne Barbeau that I appreciate. She is foxy as can be in this movie.
She got those big titties, and she's young.
I wasn't going to say
She has
all
like
that.
the torpedo boobs. They're like, she has like the 1950 boobs.
Yeah. She was hitting the back with a pair of bazooka shells. No question.
There you go.
And her hair is kind of foxy. I keep saying foxy because it's 1979.
She has a certain Adrienne Barbeau look.
Right.
I always thought she had like, at the time, I always thought she had the most awesome name. Now it sounds like a 70s porn name. But
it absolutely does. No question. But the thing is that maybe the next year is when she adopted the tight curl, like afro kind of look.
A wig. It's like she rolled into a wig almost. It's like a helmet.
It is, exactly. Where it's like Dr. J would look at her hair and be like, man, that's an afro. It was, it was a thing where I did not find that nearly as attractive. That look was, and this movie, she's kind of soft. You know what I mean? She's kind of like feminine. Every other thing I've seen her in, she's like kind of tough as nails, like she's a biker chick or something like that.
100%. She's crazy, drunken lady drinking whiskey and milk in Creepshow, emasculating everyone she can find.
Absolutely.
And let's just say it, they need emasculation.
They do. We do. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is.
General, but all these characters. It was all like I said. It
was not all men in general. So thank you.
Virginia Woolf. I would like to have seen that redone with Adrienne Barbeau.
Adrienne Barbeau and who? Hal Holbrook? Get him in there.
Yeah. You pay for that, wouldn't you?
I don't know if I would, but there you have it. Sweet Jesus. There is, I guess it's a boat of fishermen. There's like 3 fishermen, I'm assuming, out in the water who've been out all day. I'm assuming we're fishermen because we only meet them when they're all below deck, laying on bean bags or whatever the hell they are. Like it's an opium den. You
can't have a fishing boat without bean bags, 100%.
It was something like that. I don't know what was happening. I mean, were they passing the opium pipe? They were just like laying there with beers in their hands.
When they're fishing. But why do you spend the night when you're clearly like an hour away from the port?
Well, they weren't going to spend the night.
That wasn't their plan. Why were they all drunk inside?
Because if you're going to fish, why not get drunk and lay down in your
the fishing pod is now like turning into Sloppus Jalopus down below.
Something like that. Well, what is it? It's like the radar station weather guy tells Stevie James, the DJ, to let the boat know that the fog's rolling and maybe it's time to come back into port. Something
I
like
used
that.
to know some chick. I've known a Stevie back in the day. I
Stevie.
mean, that's a
Yeah.
name you don't hear with the chicks anymore.
Well, you know, Stevie Nicks was obviously
Well,
the
I
one.
mean, this Stevie was not as old as Stevie Nicks.
So you say. I always found it
Stevie Nicks is
interesting.
like our parents' age. She's like 102.
She is. She is. I always found it interesting that there was Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, and the girl and the boy are not who you think they are, right? If just looking at their names, you got to switch them. Lindsey's the
Lindsey
guy. Stevie's the...
Buckingham was very cute back in his day.
Now, speaking
Also
of,
with a
of an
fro.
afro, 70s Lindsey
Yeah.
Buckingham had a full afro.
I want to think he just had a pick, and he would just pick it out, and it would go
Absolutely.
beyond the reach of his arm.
Absolutely.
He had to have a second person to continue to pull the pick through.
Well, and that's what's so funny is the rest of Fleetwood Mac. By the way, audience, we just talk about whatever the hell comes into our minds. Very stream of conscious.
Stream of consciousness.
The rest of Fleetwood Mac basically looks the same. They look older, but the fashion, the styles are pretty much the same.
Right.
Lindsey Buckingham of the 70s, flash, smash cut 3 years later, short hair, clean shaven.
He looked really
70s,
good that
big,
way,
big
too.
old grizzly beard, huge afro. 70s. He was.
And 2023 Lindsey Buckingham is actually the guy from Crowded House now. Lindsey got the boot.
Oh, they. Wait a minute. Right, you're right. Lindsey Buckingham is not part of Fleetwood Mac anymore. I think he quit. Was he fired?
I heard he got the boot.
Oh, well, such is life.
So now
Such is
it's,
life.
I don't know, one of the Finns.
So the weird old fishermen get the notice, hey, come back to shore, but the fog's rolled in. And that's when, the guys go on deck, a bunch of pirates pop up and dispatch them quickly.
First of all, the fog is about 3 miles away, and I'm pretty sure they could have made it back if they weren't so drunk and laying on each other after some homoerotic situation.
Yes, they were laying on each other, as per
Yeah.
usual.
As
You see a
one
lot.
does.
You see a lot in this kind of time period. Speaking of facial hair, like pretty much every other character had some kind of beard or just a mustache. It was the time of like I'm still kind of carrying around that Leonard Skinner kind of look.
You say it
Who's
was
to say?
81. 81 might as well be the 70s.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So-
you don't go from just flared jeans and then there's a record scratch. Now everyone's wearing Dayglow,
No, it's true. There's a little bit of a cheat, a little
transition.
a fade, if you will, into the next decade. But the crazy scene is the guy who is like, I'm gonna go downstairs and get the boat going. A ghostly dude comes up to him, grabs him by the throat, and just takes some kind of a hook and goes right into his eyeballs. Boop, boop.
Dig it out.
Which seemed unnecessary. It was like, the other guy just gets stabbed. I'm making a special effort just to go boop, boop. Bye-bye eyeballs.
He's like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
So-
This movie isn't particularly scary.
No,
And
it's not.
it wasn't particularly scary. It wasn't particularly violent. I mean,
Well,
that was yucky. But it really
But you don't
wasn't
see
graphic.
it.
No.
You don't see it. You just see, I think maybe you see the back of the guy's head. And
It
you
would
see
have
the
been funnier
motion.
if it came through. It'd be like, beep. Like he's
Well, and the notes that I found is that John Carpenter was trying, they didn't have PG-13 this time. He was trying to make a PG movie. He was
For the
trying to
kids?
limit the amount of gore and all that stuff to make it more kind of mainstream.
Now it's just the opposite. They want a hard R.
Well, it depends. It depends what we're talking about. What they've discovered is there's like, a bell curve. And PG-13 is now the sweet spot. Because then you can get all the young kids. If you do hard R, then you're eliminating all the young kids.
Good. I want them to out of my theater. And
Yeah,
I
but
want,
they pay.
I want all the jackasses who keep checking their phone, or my asshole friends who keep checking their watch. Really? Really? Do you think this is 911? Are you responding? Is this important that I'm getting a laser beam of light into my eye?
Yes, it's very important. It's important. What? I'm a doctor. I'm a surgeon. Absolutely. No, he was trying because again, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, G is general audiences. It's supposed to be for everybody, right? PG was not supposed to be for everybody. Parental guidance is suggested. It
That
means
means it's parents' fault. You decide.
right. Well, it's meant to be
Check it out, parents.
more mature themes, but even
Right.
by the 80s, parents were like, PG's, it's not R, good enough, let's go. And then parents got freaked out by Temple of Doom, people getting their hearts ripped out, and Gremlins are throwing creatures in the microwave, things like that. People were disturbed. Ghoulies, certain other films where they're like, okay, well, now we have to have PG-13, which will let people know, hey, now we're serious about those mature themes. So there you go.
So back in the old days, if it was a Disney, Disney's were all G.
Mhm.
And then you had the shift that was like Disney wasn't going to put out anything that wasn't a G. And I think it was the 90s where we start seeing the shift that all of a sudden Disney could be PG.
Well, right, but and there was also Disney released even in the 70s started to release kind of live action things where you wonder, is it still, it may not be like F-bombs and nudity or gore or whatever, but again the
How about
themes are starting to
Zorro
get
or Dr. Sin alias the Scarecrow?
that's correct. You know, don't you? No, it was like the Black Hole, the Devil and Max Devlin with Bill
But
Cosby
those
and
were
Elliot
not
Gould.
released under Disney. They had a separate
Was that something
production
else?
company that they could put a name on it so it didn't say Disney.
Right. What was it? They had, I know
Dark
they had
Crystal.
Hollywood Videos. They had, there was another one that's name escapes me. Touchstone? Was that them?
Touchstone. Or is that it's either Touchstone is either that or that was you know, who's the big Hollywood molester?
The Weinstein Company.
Yeah.
That was not
I think he
1981.
had a finger in a lot of pies.
Miramax, Dimension
Yeah.
Films. Anywho, we keep digressing, for God's sakes.
That's because we've seen this movie so many times, and there's not a lot to say.
There's two subplots here. You've got Tom Atkins. Actually, there's multiple subplots. What the hell am I saying? You've got Stevie Wayne up in the lighthouse doing her thing, and she just
Right.
lets her preteen child, I guess, raised by the kindly elderly neighbor and their hijinks. You got Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee and teenage runaway Jamie Lee hanging out, investigating the crimes to the point when they find the bodies in the boat. Tom Atkins finds them again, not a
Right.
police officer. I mean, he could be a longshoreman for all I know. They cut to the freaking coroner's office, the medical examiner.
They're in there. Yeah,
they're in there. Jamie Lee's
This is
sitting on a
becoming
stool.
like a Giallo movie where all the investigators are actually old journalists and blind game makers.
It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was like, Tom Atkins, you want to help with the autopsy since you're here? I mean, he's like giving all the information. And
It
speaking,
was driving me crazy that they kept saying the lungs were filled with salt water.
yes,
How do you know? First of all, Tom Atkins determined that without
Yes.
without examining the lungs.
that's
And then
correct.
the coroner with a body perfectly intact, again, lungs filled with salt water.
That's correct. I mean, I'll say this. The idea behind these little details was kind of interesting, where it was like, oh man, everything was rusted, you know, like it's been out to sea,
And
buried in the
cold.
and cold, and there's salt water. I mean, all these little details are kind of fun, but it is it is handled in kind of a peculiar fashion, to say the least.
I
And
don't
then
know what
when-
John Carpenter was the F doing. I don't know what he was doing.
Some people have made that comment. Like, sometimes we give a lot of meaning to the choices John Carpenter makes. And it could be a case of he didn't really make a whole lot. He's just whatever. And then we give meaning to the meaningless. It's existential.
It's deep. It's deep. I'm going to base a whole philosophy and or religion around the meanings of this movie.
Please do. Please do. So the pokey-eyed dude rises from the table and gets like a scalpel. You think he's going to attack Jamie Lee, but then he just falls on the ground and then scrapes 3 on the ground. What the hell was that? No one else who's been killed comes back from the grave, and he's come back to warn everybody. Is that what that was?
Yeah, and then later on they drop that it has to be 6 or something.
There were the 6 conspirators. 6 must die, is what they say.
Honestly, they went back, and that has to be part of the reshoot because everybody's like, "What? Huh?"
Well, the issue is that the 6 must die. Guess what? It's been 100 years. The 6 have already died.
They are dead.
Old
You
age.
win. You
You
win.
win.
You're still kicking around on your goofy ship. You win.
I mean, is it revenge if you're like murdering innocent people?
Right. If the people who you are angry with are already like just dust, how does this hurt them?
Well, and what's funny is,
Revenge. I feel like the person should know they're being gotten
and for what
over
reason?
on. And for what reason?
Yes.
I mean, if you want to kill their family in front of them, that's fine. But
that's
at least they know. At least they would know that you are very angry. And so now watch this.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like the 3 fishermen who were killed, like towards the beginning of the movie. It's just coincidentally they were also descendants of the 3 conspirators. It would have been
like,
almost.
I'm sorry. Did only 6 people die?
Yes.
Oh.
Exactly 6 people died, and it was almost 5. The 6th dies like right before the closing credits when you think everything's cool.
Right. But then why were they trying to get Adrienne Barbeau and her son and the neighbor?
Exactly. Well, the neighbor, what? Because she gets killed, so she's clearly a descendant of one of the 6 conspirators. Yeah, it's a lot. It would have almost been more interesting if there's 3 fishermen on the boat and only 1 gets killed.
Right.
Or 2 get killed.
The creature walks right in and selects a single one while just repelling. See, that would have been much creepier.
Then it would have made
RoboCop, where he is just looking at you
targeting.
and going right for you, targeted.
And what about this? I thought, what if there's a scene where it's like, okay, this shit's happening in Antonio Bay, California, and then there's some dude in like Nebraska chilling at home, and then the fog rolls in under his door.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Where it's just like, oh shit, what the hell's this all about?
Beach in Molokai, and the fog comes out of nowhere.
He's in Anchorage, Alaska.
Fog,
Yes, he's
in winter.
Absolutely, he's in Philadelphia, just chilling, watching the game. What?
In summer, it's 150 degrees. Here comes the fog.
Right. I know.
It's that crazy sheriff that used to be on the news.
I had a bunch of ideas about how to improve this. What if every few years they keep coming back, right? The ghosts. So they came back the first time, but were only able to kill 1 of the conspirators, right? So then every couple of years, whenever the current, the tide is right. I mean, make it some kind of, then the fog rolls in again. So it's like a legend of the beware the fog kind of situation. I don't know.
That could have been cool. I mean, honestly, it's easy to avoid these mother effers. You just have to not have a shitty thin door. Because they are not fog. The fog, they are just with the fog. They still have to open the door or break it down.
They knock on the door multiple times in this movie.
Hello?
Right. Hello? Anybody home?
So if you're in your car, you just drive off. Well, and then they only hunt for an hour.
Yes, from midnight until 1 o'clock.
So at 11:30, I'm heading over to the next town in my car. Let him go get cousin Fester or something.
Let him get a cousin Fester.
Not gonna be me.
No question.
Just don't have dry rot shitty doors. Get some good oak doors in there.
No, it's
freak proof.
Right.
And they're lepers. So I assume there should be some weakness. And they're dead.
Yes. There's
I gotta say there's one stupid jump scare that revealed itself too soon. It was so stupid. I can't even remember who walked into the room. Someone was walking in to go see Hal Holbrook, Father Hal. Yeah. And you literally see him standing behind the door, waiting to come out. It was ridiculous.
Not his best work. Is that what you're saying?
Not his best work.
Did you notice? I mean, here's the other thing. There are only certain people who know about the deadly fog, right? Adrian Barbeau's kind of figured some things out. Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis have kind of figured some things out. But Janet Leigh, not Vivian Leigh, by the way,
Oh, yeah,
Janet Leigh
sorry.
and her little helper know nothing about the fog. They have not experienced any ill effects about the fog. And yet they're also, she's like, get out of the fog, run. They're like, okay, I guess we're going there too. This is all news to us. No explanation. But they
Do
live.
you think that they had to get Janet Leigh in there to get Jamie Lee Curtis? Do you think? Because this isn't the first time that mommy has showed up on daughter's movie.
Well, this is Janet Leigh's last movie until Halloween H2O, which was also a Jamie Lee Curtis production. So there you go. I mean,
You know, all these dudes think they want to be Hitchcock. So
absolutely
Well,
they do.
I mean, it would have been better if it was Tippi Hedren because this is filmed in Bodega Bay. Also, the town is Bodega Bay, which
They
is where the
mentioned
birds
Bodega
take
Bay.
place. Yeah.
They mention it. Yeah, which is
Well, they
interesting.
should mention it because that's where they were.
Is that where they filmed it, or do you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Any last thoughts or feelings about The Fog?
The remake was all filmed in Canada, so F them. Clearly, John Carpenter had more swag that he could produce it in California.
It was cheaper at the time. Now it's like it's all about tax breaks. That's why like every other movie's now filmed in Atlanta because Georgia's like we'll roll out the red carpet. In California, they tax the hell out of you now. So
Right.
people are like, we're not filming there anymore. So
Unless they got the good money.
unless they got the good money. Let's talk about behind the scenes, shall we?
Shall we?
Adrienne Barbeau, who played the DJ Stevie Wayne, patterned her voice after Alison Steele, who was a female disc jockey from the 1960s, also known as the Nightbird. Does that help
That
you?
does that sounds like Play Misty for me. That sounds the Nightbird sounds like a female crime fighter that patrols the underbelly of Los Angeles, kicking
That's
ass
correct.
and taking names.
DJ by night, crime fighter also by night. I don't know how that works. You have to
That's
take a day
right.
off every now and again.
She just taped it and put it in, and then captured the Hillside Strangler.
Stranglers.
Stranglers.
Although this was essentially a low budget independent movie, shocking, I know, John Carpenter chose to shoot the movie in anamorphic widescreen Panavision. The decision gave the movie a grander feel for the viewer, so it didn't feel like a low budget horror movie.
Anamorphic? What does that even mean? Like it's part of zebra? What does that mean?
It's part of zebra.
Anamorphic widescreen. What is that?
It's the dimensions of the screen, basically, to make it seem not TV dimensions. So
Oh yeah. Throw some more money at this shit storm.
After a rough cut of this movie appeared to be much too short for theatrical release, about 80 minutes, John Carpenter subsequently added more scenes. Among these was the prologue with the elderly captain telling ghost stories to fascinated children by the campfire. That's Joe Gaston.
What I heard was it had to be recut, and a third of the movie, like a third of the movie had to still be shot because it made no sense when they screened it at the end.
It's
So
still
they added more
questionable.
scenes, like a 30% more, to try to make it coherent.
Not a shocker. Not a shocker. The
And
lead.
still, holes everywhere. Is this like a Larry David production where we just have sets and you just say whatever's on your mind? Is that what's going on? It works
Yes.
for Larry David, not working here.
The lead ghost, Blake, was played by makeup specialist Rob Bottin. When Rob Bottin asked for the job, John Carpenter told him to stand up. Bottin then expected Carpenter to say, and get out. But Carpenter saw that Bottin was a very large man at 6'5", which was needed for the character, so he hired him. So there you go. Rob Bottin is also the guy who did all the special effects for The Thing. I'm sure you're thrilled to know.
And yet, no melted crayon monsters here. When you would think with leprosy, you could have some shit dripping off. That would have been good. Although I have to say, the most effective thing in this movie is at the
Yep.
end at the church with the fog and the people backlit, but with glowing eyes. That was cool.
That
That
was
was the best
cool.
part. That was the
Well, it's
best
one of
part of
those
this
things.
movie.
They had to be lepers because they had to give the townspeople a reason to commit the murder, I guess, right?
Do people
Because
really need big reasons beyond the money?
I mean, because even that is not a good reason. That's not a good reason to kill people.
People
Anyway,
do crazy shit. I had to take this ethnic studies class when I was up in Humboldt, and one of it is about the Chinese expulsion from Humboldt County, where they were given
okay.
24 hours to pack up everything they had, and they dumped them in San Francisco.
Yeah, there's horrible stuff going along all through
This could
history.
have been something like that, but I think this is actually based on a real shipwreck, not involving lepers, just involving greed.
Was it the Edmund Fitzgerald? Is that the
It
one?
was down, 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 down.
Jazz music was used for Stevie Wayne's radio station because the royalties were much more affordable than royalties for rock music. Makes sense.
And then John Carpenter did all the other music. He was
He
the
did.
goblet of this situation.
He does all that stuff, man. Ain't
Yeah.
no lie.
Mm.
The role of Father Malone was originally offered to Sir Christopher Lee, who believed the character could be the father of
Ooh,
the community. However,
fuck,
Lee
that would have
proved
been great.
unavailable, and Hal Holbrook was eventually cast.
I gotta tell
Wah,
you, I'm
wah.
not a huge Hal Holbrook fan. Not that he's, a bad person, but Christopher Lee would have been amazing.
Absolutely. This was the cinematic debut of actress Adrienne Barbeau. Before this, she was just on TV.
On Mod.
On
And
Mod.
Mod.
Absolutely. Which is funny. I was reading this thing how a different actress was hired as Maud's daughter in the pilot. And that when they hired Adrienne Barbeau to play it for the rest of the series, her performance was too soft. Like B. Arthur didn't like the way she played the daughter. She wanted her to be tougher and stronger, which is kind of ironic. So,
Well, which is weird because you have to. B. Arthur's character was tough and strong, so you
right.
have to. Usually, you have to have the. You can't have just two people screaming. That's not very interesting.
You can't. You can't. Absolutely. Now, I noticed this immediately. Like, there are a bunch of characters in this movie named after John Carpenter, like friends and coworkers, essentially.
Right.
Tom Atkins' character's name is Nick Castle. Nick Castle was like, he worked on the original Halloween and actually played Michael Myers in most of that movie. The actor, he's
Right.
actor, producer type. Tommy Wallace was like a production designer. That's the name of another character in this. Dan O'Bannon is the
Oh yeah.
name. There, he was just like practically every other character's name. I'm shocked there wasn't a character just named Adrienne Barbeau, for God's sakes.
I
So,
didn't pick up on that at all.
well, because it's just kind of hey Nick, hey Tom, hey
Right.
Dan. You have to look in the credits to actually get it. Shall we talk about the ratings?
Lay it on me.
The Fog currently sits at 75% fresh. Do you know what the audience gave it?
74.
65. Boom.
Ooh.
Very upsetting. Let's look at the top critics, shall we? Vincent Canby of the New York Times says, unlike Halloween, which is a model of straightforward horror and carefully controlled suspense, The Fog is constructed of random diversions.
It's just rando.
They are random. Totally random. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times says,
This can't be good. Can't be good.
the movie's made with style and energy, but it needs a better villain. 2 out of 4.
Oh, necrotic pirate dudes. That's not a good villain.
Well, because they're just kind of faceless shapes
Yeah.
in the fog, I guess.
There's all kinds of
Maybe.
things that could have
Perhaps.
made this better.
Variety staff Story, exposition, and setting are well established before the opening titles are over, and the fog proceeds to layer one fright atop another.
What a bunch of
that.
shit. That person was paid off. That's payola.
That's variety staff. What?
Yeah.
What is your
so
rating?
shame they can't put their name on it.
God, no shame. Go ahead.
I mean, really, this is 2 ice picks out of 5 in your ass but saying that, I still watch it when it's on. It's just goofy. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. But I would not say it's a good movie. I'm with the audience. This is like a D. It's a D, but a nostalgia C+.
I'm gonna give it 2.5 conspirators long dead out of 5, because like you said, it's like the kind of vibe behind it, the basic bare bones is kind of interesting. You know, I like the idea of the fog, and there's ghostly characters in the fog coming to get their revenge. I kind of dig that, but it kind of, again, like we said, the whole revenge plot kind of flies in the face of they're attacking everybody. Right? And just kind of accidentally murdered the 6 conspirators.
Unless it's just incest town and everyone's only allowed to have one baby, but only after one person dies.
Absolutely. Now, how about they just say, we're out to destroy the town, right? We're out because this town was formed with our blood and our gold. We're going to destroy the town. We're going to kill everybody we see. Then that kind of.
What would happen if they rolled up and the town was already destroyed?
Then they roll back out.
Do they go to the next town? What happened? They just turned around, went back, come back in 100 years, see who's there?
Go door to door. No.
Why wait 100 years?
Why wait 100 years? That's it. We were waiting for the celebration, for the fireworks spectacular.
Where's our invitation?
That's exactly right. It's not horrible. There's things I like about it quite a bit, but there's a lot they're just kind of like,
You're like,
whatever.
What are they doing that?
Yeah.
Why is Tom Atkins investigating?
Why are they in bed together?
Why is Jamie Lee Curtis in this at all? What does she bring to the story at all? Except to sleep with crazy Tom Atkins and just walk with him.
That's 100% correct. Tom Atkins does some investigating, and he drags along the teenage runaway with him.
That he's poking. And quite frankly, he was like, I thought you were leaving. You still here?
Very upsetting. Let's talk. You know what? I keep doing this. Let's talk about the cast.
Her daddy lover.
Her dad. 100%. This movie, as you know, was directed by John Carpenter. Famously directed The Fog, Halloween, Dark Star, Escape from New York, thousands of other things. Wrote, directed, did the music. He does it all. He's a Renaissance man. This movie stars Adrienne Barbeau as Stevie Wayne, the kindly disc jockey. You know her from Escape from New York, Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, Creep Show.
People.
She's all over the place. And The Fog, of course. Maude. Jamie Lee Curtis played teenage runaway Elizabeth Solly. You know her from such things as Halloween 2018. Recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Academy Award winner.
She was so good with that. She was really good. I know you hated that movie, but it was fantastic.
It was tonally uneven. Let me just say that.
You're out of your mind.
She was in True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I enjoyed quite a bit.
Yep.
And Halloween H2O 20 years later. And other things. Let's see. Janet Leigh, not to be confused with Vivian Leigh, was Kathy Williams, the town matriarch, who evidently was not related to any of the co-conspirators. You know her from Psycho, The Manchurian Candidate,
Yep.
Touch of Evil,
Yep.
and The Fog. Boom. John Houseman, who was in a movie we did not long ago, Rollerball. You know him. He was Mr. Machin, which is bizarre because he's in one scene as old crazy pirate.
What's fascinating about John Houseman is I believe he was always old.
He was always.
He was always old. He always looked the same. I think we can go back to the 1930s and he will look exactly the same.
Easily. You know him from The Paper Chase in 1973. He played Bartholomew in Rollerball. He was in 3 Days of the Condor, and he was in The Fog. They said that at this time, people would hire like Orson Welles to make little bizarre cameos.
Yeah.
But if he was out of their price range, they would hire John Houseman instead to fill the same role as the wise old person.
He'll serve no wine before it's time.
That's right. Tom Atkins played Nick Castle. You know him from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, The Fog, My Bloody Valentine in 2009, and of course he played Ray Cameron in Night of the Creeps.
All-star cast.
And of course we've got Hal Holbrook. He played Father Malone. You know him from such things as Into the Wild in 2007. He was Preston Blair in Lincoln in 2012. He was Deep Throat in All the President's Men.
I did enjoy that.
He was in Creepshow. It's a good times had by all. So, thank you very much. Go to our pages on Facebook, X, Threads. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. You may be watching us on YouTube at the very moment. You can also
not unless we're live streaming.
We might be. Who's to say? You can also email us at thepodcastthatwouldn't.die @gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
Before I tell you that,
please.
What do you like better, The Fog or The Mist? As far as damp, weather-related movies.
Ooh, what do I like better? The Fog?
I know, it's kind of campy and kitschy. I think I do too.
Well, and the special effects in The Mist are just not the greatest. I don't like the CGI. When it's not good, it's not great. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, such is life.
Enjoy some practical effects. All right, I am on the gram. I am on the threads. I am the cultivar and join the cult. You can buy my Polaroids on Artsy and First Dibs. Although I think I'm ending that, so I might be over on Saatchi Art. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. So do yourself a favor and get those goodies, for
Why
God's
not?
sakes. It's a perfect stocking stuffer.
It really is. It'll stuff my stocking.
What we try to do each week is include questions, comments from listeners/viewers. And I haven't done this in a while. I'm going into the YouTube archives, if you will, to see people's thoughts and feelings. From our Rollerball episode, Leo Allen Jr. says, pure 70s magic. And I agree. Absolutely. In our Face Off episode, Pablo Gunner 007 says, I love how Aaron craps on Kevin's opinions in the movies right away. You're the one who likes it, I'll tell you what, for God's sakes. From our Speak No Evil episode, Nicole11 says, Tim Curry and Javier Bardem, that's so much eye bag action. No question. We agree on that one at least. So, next week, we're having a special guest, Andres from the Latin Jukebox will be joining us to discuss the 2008 horror classic Funny Games. You can watch that for cash, I'm sad to say, on Amazon Prime or pretty much anywhere else that rents digital video. So send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So we will, if they're good enough comments or questions, for goodness sake. So thank you very much, and be well.
Be well, children.